Good afternoon. Welcome to the Environment Transportation Committee. It is March 12th, 2026, and we're going to start today with Delegate Ryan Naraki, House Bill 1508. Delegate, you may begin whenever you're ready.
Right. Thank you, Madam Chair and colleagues. I've got about 40 witnesses for this bill. They're mainly going to say the same thing over and over. I hope that's okay. Madam Chair, some of them are virtual. They have very difficulty using AV equipment, so hopefully that won't pose a problem for you at all.
All of that I love, you
okay,
know.
Fantastic. No, so colleagues, we often get many quote unquote simple bills. This one I do think is a simple bill. I want to just give you the background on why I introduced this bill, and I think this might be a story that maybe some others have experienced. So during the interim last year, there was a major project that came to fruition in my district, in the Middle River area, close to the delegate from over here, his district as well, caught many of us by surprise. It intersects 3 state roadways, this property, but we had no idea that it was coming because there is no notification requirement to elected officials like ourselves, senators and delegates. So what this bill would do is it would just simply provide a notification requirement. Doesn't change the process, doesn't change how someone goes through the process of getting a state access permit for a state roadway. It just gives us information when a permit application is filed. And we have been negotiating with the State Highway Administration to make it as least intrusive as possible for the administration. I noticed that there is a small fiscal note. I think that there is a way to resolve that fiscal note challenge as well by just making this a responsibility of the developer of the property to get this notice out to us as elected officials. Candidly, I don't think that it would have stopped the project that I'm talking about in my district, but I wasn't trying to stop the project in my district. What I would have liked to have seen happen would be some input from the community to say, hey, instead of having access and egress to the state highway, in this case, Eastern Avenue and Wilson Point Road, there's another road, Martin Boulevard, that would have, I think, been more amenable to the community. It would have taken big truck traffic from this really big warehouse and put it down a roadway that was more appropriate. And I think that with some interaction with the community, that would have occurred. But we found out about it after sort of the permits were already approved, after all the zoning was already done, so there was no real opportunity to have that interaction. So that's why I brought the bill. I think it's a pretty common sense bill. Happy to answer any questions that you all may have about the bill.
Thank you so much, Delegate. I have a 6-part run-on question, and I'm going to end just with a statement. No, I'm kidding. I do have a question for you, actually. Have you spoken at all with, say, any of the developer organizations, NIOP, any of the others that about whether this is doable for their members and whether they'd be willing to do it?
So I haven't spoken with those folks. I haven't spoken with the development community. Madam Chair, that's a great conversation to have. I don't think it's a super onerous requirement. The reason I don't think it is I'll give you an example. And this isn't state highway, but in my district I have several landfills. And the owners of those landfills, the private owners of those landfills, whenever they want to do something at those, they notify us that they're trying to seek a permit change and things like that. So I think that this is sort of in the same spirit. I believe the chair also had a piece of legislation a couple years ago that did something similar to this with sidewalk closures on state highways as well. So there is now a notification requirement in law already for that. So this would just kind of put it in the same posture as that, Madam Chair.
Terrific. And who is responsible for those notifications?
That, I believe, is the State Highway Administration.
Okay. All right, thank you. Given us a lot to think about. And for those watching at home, my original remarks were just in jest. We actually love having Delegate Naraki on our committee. And we also do have notes and bunnies for all of you on the committee on your tables. Seeing no, seeing no other questions for this panel, that will end House Bill 1508. We will move now to Delegate Martinez. House Bill 1227, Prince George's County Delegation, Crosswalk Monitoring Systems Authorization. Welcome, Delegate, and you may begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, I am Delegate Ashanti Martinez, here to present House Bill 1227, Prince George's County Crosswalk Monitoring Systems Authorization Bill. The aim of this bill is to provide Prince George's County with the ability to place crosswalk monitoring devices within school zones. This would increase the safety of pedestrians and monetarily punish those who fail to yield to pedestrians within school zones. In fact, this bill is part of a much broader movement across our state towards more effective automatic traffic monitoring devices as determined by local government based on transparent decisions paired with community oversight. Should this bill be implemented, it would help protect Prince George's County students as they travel to and from and around their schools by granting the county authority to establish crosswalk monitoring systems in designated school zones. Maryland would enable direct action to improve pedestrian safety, consistent with similar proposals in other jurisdictions. The urgency of this issue was tragically highlighted in November 2023 when two students, 5-year-old Sky and 10-year-old Shalom, were fatally struck in a marked crosswalk near Riverdale Elementary in my district, after a driver failed to yield. Under this bill, drivers who refuse to yield to pedestrians in school zones would be fined. Proven stop sign enforcement data shows automatic safety measures work. In their first year of being implemented, the automatic stop signs in school zones, the cameras can reduce violations by more than 70%, with some intersections exceeding 80%, while violations continue to decline as drivers' behaviors changed. Most citations, 80 to 90%, were issued to non-residents, and 96% of those surveyed felt much safer knowing that these cameras existed. With pedestrian crashes rising statewide and with Prince George's County accounting for 25% of Maryland's fatal pedestrian incidents, this legislation offers a proven, data-driven safeguard to help prevent future tragedies in school zones. This bill has been amended. We have some sponsor amendments that were given to the committee. You may have also seen the information provided by the Maryland Judiciary discussing the theorized cost of this bill. I want to be very clear, the Judiciary's fiscal note assumes the courts process automated citations when they only see contested cases. However, the bill does not change adjudication. So the claimed $1.4 million in IT cost reflects their desire for modernization, not a requirement of this legislation. This provision updates Maryland law governing access to images captured by automatic traffic enforcement systems. It also clarifies that and this is part of the amendment, that clarifies that recorded images from systems such as red light cameras, speed cameras, school bus cameras, and similar technologies are not available for public inspection. The amendment also adds crosswalk monitoring systems to this list, meaning images captured by those systems are protected from public disclosure. However, the images may still be assessed by the person who received the citation, their attorney, or authorized government personnel involved in enforcement or legal proceedings. The provision also states that existing state standards for handling, processing, and disposing of record images apply to citations issued through crosswalk monitoring systems. Overall, this is a common sense bill that has the power to protect our youth and their environments of learning. This bill would continue Maryland's dedication to increasing safety and reducing the dangers vehicles can cause. For this reason, I strongly urge a favorable report on House Bill 1227.
Thank you to the whip. Are there any questions? Okay, there are additional favorable witnesses. John Sang, Maryland Coalition for Roadway Safety, and Wade Borman, Obvio.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to introduce myself first. My name is Wade Borman. I work with Obvio, Inc. I really appreciate you all taking the time to work on things that are this important in our state. So Obvio, Inc. supports crosswalk monitoring systems in school zones in Maryland. Maryland is facing a serious pedestrian safety crisis. In 2025 alone, 116 pedestrians were killed in Maryland roadways. That's nearly 1 in 4 traffic deaths statewide. These numbers reflect a persistent and unacceptable danger for families simply trying to walk safely in their communities. No county is immune to this challenge. Our research finds that crosswalks and both non-compliance is both widespread and severe. In Prince George's County, over 1,000 failure to yields were seen per day in our pilots. The failure to yield rate was 88.48%. So each failure to yield creates a near miss moment. I've seen multiple working out in intersections with children and adults. It's just astounding and egregious, to be completely honest. So this is especially concerning in school zones where predictable driver behavior is essential and where the consequences of a single reckless decision is catastrophic. Communities in Prince George's County have already demonstrated the automatic traffic enforcement that you heard is working with stop signs, seeing 70 to 80% reductions in the egregious behavior, and we see no reason why the technology wouldn't work for crosswalks as well. Avio's technology is designed to help communities implement enforcement quickly and responsibly. Our solar-powered systems can be installed in days rather than months and built to understand the full context of an intersection, including vehicle movements, pedestrian presence, distance, and safety risks.
Good afternoon. I'm John Sang with Safe Roads Maryland. We keep showing up like a bad penny, but in all seriousness, I want to put a face behind the name that the delegate spoke to. This is a photograph of 5-year-old Sky Sosa, who was walking to school with his father and older sister near Riverdale Elementary School in Prince George's County. They were doing exactly what families are supposed to, stay in the crosswalk, walking with their adult parent, but the driver did not stop. This just wasn't any vehicle, it was like a big blue van, okay? No match for this small family. They were struck and killed in that crosswalk while their father was also struck, but who survived. Chair Corman and Vice Chair Boyce, members of the House Environment and Transportation Committee, we respectfully request your favorable report on House Bill 1227. It addresses a simple and deeply troubling reality that we can see anytime during the day, any day of the week, that too many drivers do not stop for pedestrians in crosswalks, even in school zones. HB 1227 gives Prince George's County a practical, automated enforcement, advanced technology tool to enforce a law that already exists, even when especially when someone's in a crosswalk. Drivers must stop. This bill is measured and it creates a modest civil penalty, no points, no insurance, consequences, and includes safeguards such as signage, public notice, and so forth. The principle behind it is powerful. A crosswalk is not a suggestion. A school zone is not a racetrack. I will keep showing up for legislation like this because I am a grandfather of 5 children, ages 6 and under. This is not going to happen to my family as it's destroyed other families in the past. We appreciate your support for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. And John, you're nothing like a bad penny. We like having you here. You're doing really important work, and we're hoping to make some changes that will make you happy. So
thank you, Chair Corman, for your support.
And I'll also compliment Wade. You really did a great job stopping right when the buzzer went, so I appreciate that. Any questions for these panelists? Okay, that concludes the bill hearing on House Bill 1227. We'll turn to House Bill 1496, Delegate Adams, vehicle laws causing serious injury or death of a vulnerable individual. If you have a panelist, please bring them up. And let's also welcome back to the committee room Delegate Healy. Welcome back, Delegate.
Okay, Chair Corman, committee members, for the record, Delegate Chris Adams here to present House Bill 1496, titled Vehicles Laws Causing Serious Injury or Death to Vulnerable Individuals. I'm asking the committee to strongly support this bill. This bill ensures fair and consistent application of penalties, recognizing that motorcyclists, while vulnerable on the road, should not be singled out in the statute in a way that creates unequal treatment compared to other vehicle operators under similar circumstances. Current enhanced penalty for harming vulnerable individuals serve an important safety purpose, but including motorcyclists in this specific definition can lead to disproportionate or inconsistent outcomes in cases involving vehicle-to-vehicle incidents. Excluding motorcyclists from this category promote equity in the law without diminishing overall accountability for reckless or negligent driving that causes harm. So members, without getting too far into depth on this particular subject, I do have members of ABATE with me who are subject matter experts, and I will kindly refer the committee to their testimony to further describe. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chairman Corman, members of the Environment and Transportation Committee. My name is Ken Eaton, and I am the Executive Director of ABATE of Maryland. We represent the over 100,000 registered motorcyclists across the state. We are licensed, insured, and registered motorists who share the roads. We are here today in support of HB 1496, which would remove motorcyclists from the legal definition of vulnerable individuals. Currently, Maryland groups motorcyclists with pedestrians, bicyclists, farm equipment, animal-drawn vehicles, and more. For the sake of clarity, we suggest that any motorist be excluded from the definition of a vulnerable individual. According to the Administrative Office of the Courts, in 2025, there were only 20 violations issued to individuals for causing injury or death of a vulnerable individual, 5 of which resulted in guilty dispositions, and it is unknown if any of these involved a motorcycle. As someone who recently lost a stepson to a vehicle crash, I can tell you firsthand, it's unfathomable for a grieving family to hear that a person responsible for their loved one's death could face minimal civil penalties that might amount to a fine and community hours. There are 2 key factors to consider. The Sergeant Kep Act of 2025 that passed last year now has must-appear requirements for negligent, reckless driving for all motorists. Consistency. The federal government and 35 other states define vulnerable users strictly as non-motorists. Motorcyclists travel in the designated lanes on the road. Our true protection comes from safety education and driver awareness, not a legal label. For the sake of clarity and consistency, ABATE of Maryland respectfully requests a favorable report on HB 1496.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Robert Spanberg. I'm the legislative representative for ABATE of Maryland, and I'm here to lobby in favor of passage of House Bill 1496. I'm sure we talked to one of the members of the committee the other night, and it seems almost counterintuitive to have yourself removed from a list that theoretically is supposed to enhance your protections. As motorcyclists, we're aware of the inherent dangers, if you will, of our mode of transportation and fully accept that. For many years, we lobbied very hard to get a must-appear bill passed. As a matter of fact, one of the members of the committee had a bill passed that I testified on behalf of. Unfortunately, wordage may instead of shall made it to where it was still up to the discretion of the officer whether someone was going to be required to appear in court. That was our main impetus the entire time, as if someone's involved in a fatal accident, we feel that it should mandate a court appearance. At the time that this vulnerable individuals bill was passed that we actually lobbied in favor of, we felt that that would further our chances to make that a reality. Unfortunately, that was not the case. As my colleague mentioned, we're the only motorized vehicles that are listed as vulnerable individuals. Therefore, with the passage of the Sergeant Kep Act, I think we feel that we've made great strides in reaching our goals, and I feel we no longer need to be on this list. I thank you for your time and would hope that y'all would vote favorably for this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from my colleagues? Delegate Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Delegate Adams, for bringing this bill. I also want to thank your panel, Mr. Eaton and Mr. Spanberg, who stopped by my office, and I'm happy I was there to talk with you about your perspectives. You really changed my ideas about vulnerable road users. I would like to make sure that the committee understands why you feel this bill is important, and I would direct this question, I think, if it's okay, to Mr. Eaton. Could you please explain in simple language why your perspective that motorcycle riders are not vulnerable road users?
One of the largest reasons is that in 35 other states, we're not considered vulnerable road users, and there's reasons for that. NHTSA and its forest system, when they're providing their statistics, vulnerable road users is only non-motorists. So we don't want, just like when I mentioned that they don't know if any of the tickets in Maryland that were given actually applied to motorcyclists, we don't want our statistics muddied up with motorists and non-motorists. We'd like to keep them separate so that there's a accuracy and a consistency to the statistics. A lot of the reason that we want to be not considered vulnerable individuals is basically we are motorists. We don't get any special, there's not crosswalks for motorcyclists. There's not special lanes that only motorcycles drive in. We drive in the lanes of every other motorist. Pedestrians and horses crossing the roadway, tractors and whatnot aren't really traveling in the travel lanes as a motorized vehicle.
So as Mr. Eaton said, that really is counterintuitive, and I think you understand that when I'll speak for myself. When I imagine a vulnerable road user, it's someone who's physically exposed to the dangers of moving around with 5,000-pound, hurtling boxes of metal. So it was tough for me to envisage your point of view, and I really appreciate you explaining it. And if I may, Mr. Chair, I just want to ask the bill sponsor if there was any, I didn't see really any unfavorable testimony. There is one unfavorable, but they didn't submit written testimony. Do you expect, what might you expect in terms of potential opposition to this bill?
So I don't think there's going to be any opposition to the bill, and I'll take it a step further. I did watch the Senate hearing. Senator Mounts is the cross file, and during that hearing, there were no questions that were straightforward and critical of the bill, nor was there any opposition presented in the Senate. So we're hopeful this bill does make sense to the committee, and on its basis of merit, that it would be supported.
Thank you, Delegate. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the bill hearing on House Bill 1496. Delegate Adams, I know you have another bill, but your chair is waiting. Do you mind if I bump her in front of you?
Thank you. Absolutely.
Great, thank you. House Bill 421, Chair Valderrama on behalf of the Prince George's County delegation, Maryland Route 210, point-to-point speed monitoring systems. If you have a panel or anything, please bring them up, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I'm liking this new role with the special privileges that come with it. And Delegate Adams, thank you for allowing me the pleasure of coming before you. With that said, good afternoon, Chair Corman, Vice Chair Guyton, all the esteemed members of the Environment and Transportation Committee. I'll preface by saying I do miss Delegate Frazier Hidalgo, who was ECM, now is ENT, but I know he was ENT first. He was ENT first, correct. Oh, Delegate Morgan, okay, all right. Touche. I will just say good afternoon. I am here before you on the record, Chris Valderrama, representing Prince George's County District 26, here to present House Bill 421, Prince George's point-to-point speed monitoring system. I want to preface by saying that I appreciate the chairman's indulgence in having meetings with my constituents, the 210 committee, who are here presently virtually, but not in person. But many of you know that I don't have to educate you as the members here as I continue to come before you with the issues and dangers of Indian Head Highway Route 210 in my district. So for those of you who've been here for a significant amount of time on this committee, you know that I've been coming before you for almost a decade, which I can't believe. So for the past 9 years, asking for various speed improvement monitoring, excuse me, various speed monitoring systems. And while there have been significant improvements, deaths, unfortunately, are still occurring on Route 210 at a very alarming rate. So the 210 Safety Committee I just want to let you know, is an all-volunteer group of my constituents who don't have any outside resources per se, except their own intellect and time, and who have worked tirelessly to educate the public about the unique intricacies and dangers of this road, and have lobbied for multiple laws that have been passed by this committee. So I thank you for that. I will emphasize again that 210 Committee is truly, truly a grassroots effort by constituents who care very deeply about the safety in their community and our community. So besides legislation, they were quite instrumental in convincing my county, Prince George's County, to make a significant investment in the state-of-the-art speed monitoring system produced and operated by a company called Genoptic. And one of the features of this sophisticated system is the ability to set up a point-to-point monitoring system that averages the speed between two individual monitors and issues civil penalties to drivers who average 12 miles over the posted speed limit. So as you all know, there's a buffer. It's not like if you're on a 55 mile per hour zone that you get a ticket if you go 56 or 57. There is a buffer of 11, 12 miles. So there are several, I would say, advantages of a point-to-point system over the current single monitor system. It is more accurate than a single monitor system. A study was done this summer on Route 210 that found 4 violations caught by the current system, the old system, compared with 74 point-to-point system. It prevents accidents caused by drivers who suddenly brake at a camera and then to evade detection. They call it gaming the system, as well as preventing the accordion effect, which increases random traffic congestion. So several studies have found an accident reduction of at least 22%. It is a reliable and accurate system. The point-to-point system, while it has not widely been used here in the United States, it has been the norm, if you can believe that, throughout Europe and Australia for many years. I personally watched a video during the interim where they presented this to us. And it was recently instituted in the state of Connecticut and was included as an option in our state's latest highway work safety law. So to ensure maximum accuracy, paired speed monitors, they must be at least 1 mile apart and no more than 10 miles apart. This bill contains significant constitutional and legal protections that are found in our current statute. It must take a photo of the license plate and not the driver or contents of the vehicle, because I know that was an issue that was brought up during the many conversations during the interim. Data cannot be used for general surveillance, immigration enforcement, or criminal investigations unrelated to speeding or accidents. And all violators have the right to contest their penalties in Maryland District Court. I will say there must be roadside signage announcing the presence of speed monitoring and published announcements about where they are located. So, for those who may say this is a trap and they're just trying to catch people and generate revenue, no. Funds are directed to SHA solely to advance safety measures and do not go to the state, county, or municipal general fund. It is not a moneymaker. Drivers can avoid civil penalties by not speeding. And I've said that every year when I come before, just don't speed. And finally, I would say that Prince George's County, the county must file a yearly report to the General Assembly containing certain evaluative metrics. So given the continuing elevated death rates on Route 210 and the installation of a proven, an accurate, and state-of-the-art equipment, and the right to a trial in Maryland District Court, the overwhelming support of the community for improved safety on this road, and the adequate legal and constitutional protections, I would respectfully urge a favorable report of House Bill 421. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Katie Nash on behalf of Genoptic in support of HB 421. We are the incumbent vendor for Prince George's County for the Automated Speed Enforcement Program, and I personally manage that program and am responsible for managing our compliance and our day-to-day actions to improve the safety with these technology tools. We appreciate the consideration of this new methodology of enforcing the speed limit on this dangerous roadway. I'll keep this very brief. In preparation for this hearing, we programmed our cameras to gather data on 2 northbound and 2 southbound segments of Highway 210 to record the average speed for a 24-hour period. In that 24-hour period, for 3 segments, we measured some vehicles with an average speed of more than 90 miles per hour. For all 4 segments, we measured 16 speeders proceeding at more than 80 miles per hour. If you've driven on this roadway, you know how fast and how dangerous that is on Maryland 210. My purpose in being here today was to share some initial data, listen to any questions, and pursue immediate answers with our technical team. I'm especially grateful for the dedication and time and the attention of the 210 Safety Committee as they continue to pursue solutions for greater safety on this dangerous road. And of course, I'm very grateful for Chair Valderrama and her continued leadership for this roadway specifically, and for introducing this legislation. We request a favorable report for HB 421. Thank you.
Hi again, John Seng here with Safe Roads Maryland. We stand lock arms with the Route 210 Traffic Safety Committee. The time has come to finally change what happens on Route 210. As Delegate Valderrama shared, for the past 9-10 years, they've been battling away. So write down on your calendar today's date, March 12th, is the beginning of the end for this unrivaled, out-of-control roadway violence on Route 210 in Prince George's County. Enough already. The reality is simple. Too many drivers on this road, Route 210, and frankly throughout the state of Maryland, simply refuse to slow down, hopelessly addicted to speeding on our roads. Traditional law enforcement alone cannot keep up with the scale of this problem. We need consistent enforcement from soup to nuts across the entire corridor of Route 210. And that's exactly what point-to-point speed monitoring does. I think it's awesome to think about the potential of this technology in the state, and not just in the state, but in the country. So Maryland has a true chance to become a leader in road safety to set a terrific example for the rest of our nation. It ends the cat and mouse game where drivers slam on the brakes at a camera and then accelerate and speed up again, referring to the yo-yo in traffic that Delegate Valderrama spoke to. But this bill is about something much larger. It's about healing a road that has taken too much from too many families. It's about the time finally coming to transform Route 210 from Maryland's most feared corridor to a model for roadway safety. Safe Roads Maryland respectfully urges your favorable report on HB 421. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We do have some questions. I have a quick one. So Chair Valderrama, you said to avoid being fined, just don't speed, right?
Yes.
And actually, you can speed and avoid the fines. You can go up to 11 miles per hour over, right, and still not get fined.
True.
So you're not even telling people not to speed. You're telling them not to speed by 12 or more miles per hour over the speed limit.
Correct. And I will just put a reminder for those who have been on the committee, as many of the pieces of legislation that I come before you asking for a favorable report, one of them is for the penalties issue, because we have recidivists who clock at, I want to say 140. Yep. And because, I'm just going back, I'm not talking about this present one where fines were only at $40. Clearly, it's not a deterrent. So, and I will add that point to point, for those who may not know, it's not adding cameras. P2P is technology. And so this was asked in our delegation a couple of weeks ago. We're not adding anything new except for if this legislation were to pass, which I praise it does, the technology would be implemented in the current cameras that are there now. We're not adding new cameras, we're just adding technology to the cameras.
Great. Thank you. Delegate Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks very much Madam Chair, for bringing this bill. Thanks to your panel. I was curious about the actual technology. So you're saying if the bill were to pass and Prince George's County wanted to set up this point-to-point camera surveillance, there would still be just one camera device?
I'll let this expert, but as I understand it, we have currently several cameras. We're not adding new cameras, we're not taking away, but the technology that's implemented into those cameras, I'm not the scientist, but yeah, that's how it works. I wish I had a video, but I'm sure she can share that with you if she.
I'd appreciate the clarification.
Of course, I can follow up with your office as well, but we currently have 6 locations on 210. Essentially, we just program it, we tell it to do something different and a different enforcement. So we ran a pilot for this hearing specifically, we told it to run some data for us. It's just doing a different sort of level of enforcement. And I'm happy to follow up with your office and show you.
Thank you. And if I could have a quick follow-up question to Madam Chair. You mentioned that this new technological approach to enforcing speed limits, this might be the first such sort of implementation in Maryland and in the U.S.?
Because Connecticut has begun this technology.
Oh, so we'd be just behind Connecticut?
We're not setting precedent, if that's what you're asking.
Well, I always like for Maryland to be the first doing awesome things,
Well,
saving
unlike some
lives.
people, you're opposite from everyone else.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the bill.
Delegate Frazier-Hidalgo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Chair, thank you for being here. So I just have a very technical question because I just really like to get into the engineering. That's just how my brain works. So you have 2 cameras, and as the vehicle moves through one camera, it takes a photo and/or a time, and then when it reaches the second camera, which could be anywhere from 1 to 10 mile difference, right? So that delta could be anywhere from 1 to 10 miles. Then it takes a second photo and puts a timestamp on it. And then it does the math to figure out overall if you have been speeding or not.
Yes.
Okay, and then based on whatever that math is, like to my chair's point, if that math is above 11 miles an hour, so 12 miles an hour and more, then you get a civil citation in the mail.
Correct.
And there's no picture of the driver, it's just all
The
back of
license plate.
Just the license plate, okay. All right, that's great, thank you for the clarification, appreciate it.
Delegate Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Chair, I really appreciate you continually coming back, because, you know, I'm the Republican that votes for all this stuff, and all the other Republicans shake their head at
I love
me.
you.
Thank you very much. I like the technology. I know where you're going with this. It's a cool idea. But, you know, where you meet a lot of resistance is obviously Charles County residents, and they've always been sort of reluctant because the number of times that they have reached out to their delegation to discuss this idea.
It was shared during the interim with I can't remember specifically who it was. We had a breakfast with Genoptic and had invited some stakeholders. I personally haven't had further discussion, but I'm happy to do that. But I will emphasize again, it is new, it's technology, but it's not adding a camera. And we took precautions to make sure that privacy was accounted for. Yeah, so yes and no.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Delegate Stein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Chair Valderrama, thanks for bringing this bill. It's an interesting technology. I follow up Delegate Frazier-Hidalgo's question. I'm still not clear exactly how the speeder would be caught. It sounded like you were saying if the average speed between the 2 points was 12 miles an hour or more over the speed limit, that's the offense. What if during that continuum, their average speed is not too high, but at either end, they are exceeding it. Would they still get a violation?
So traditional speed enforcement, automated speed enforcement, we call it spot speed enforcement. It is we've always sort of authorized location-based enforcement, one location, right? The change here is that you're authorizing an enforcement over a certain segment of roadway. The violation occurs if at any point that motorist goes above that 12-mile threshold, that 11 miles over or 12 miles over, right? So that is a difference. It's a big change. And I don't want to mislabel that as not a big change. It is a big change in a way of thinking. We were asked from the 210 Safety Committee, what else can be done? We see it on 210 all the time. Folks see the trailer, they see the automated enforcement, they slam on their brakes, and that's when we came, we presented this other strategy. Essentially, it is the signage would indicate we are entering into, it's almost like the Easy Pass. If you're familiar with that technology, it's the same exact technology. If you're entering into an automated enforcement zone, an average speed zone, it's another way of calling it that, an average speed enforcement zone, you're entering into that zone, the signage would indicate that you're entering into that zone. If at any point the motorist crosses that 12 miles an hour or over threshold, they're in violation. The math indicates it. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
That does, and I can see how it's more effective enforcement as opposed to just, looking at driver speed at two particular points. It's the entire length in between the two cameras.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Delegate Baker.
Mr. Chair, so that I fully understand, if I get by the first camera, I'm say 15 miles over the posted speed limit. I go through the second camera, my average is less than 12 miles per hour through that whole entire area. I don't get a ticket?
So if I understand, Delegate, if you pass and then you slow down, if you're under the average speed, but at any point if you crossed over the average, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. Can you repeat? I think I misunderstood.
You just answered the question. So if I'm going through the first camera and I'm at 15 miles per hour.
Yes, if you're over the average,
I'm going to
yes.
get a ticket.
And it would have to be 12 miles or over, so 15 would, right.
Okay, so if my average speed through the 2 points would drop down to 5 over, I would still get that ticket because I passed the first camera over 12 miles per hour.
More than above 12 miles per hour, yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And could I ask another question? Okay, so if I were to take my, go to court, would I have to pay court costs if I'm found not guilty? And if so, how much would that court cost be?
So it's good, I think the bill contemplates it being treated just as current automated enforcement statute would treat it. So it doesn't change that.
So I would still have to pay court costs?
That would be.
No, not if you're found not guilty. That's according to, yeah.
That's it.
We can double check that with Patrick, but I don't think you have to pay court costs in that case, Delegate Baker, because then there would be no incentive to go to court, right? I mean, it would be, you'd be a lose-lose. Delegate Frazier, Hidalgo.
So just kind of, again, thinking through the engineering part of this. So it's that delta between the first camera and the second camera. And whatever that math is determines whether your overall is above. So what if the speed limit there was 55 miles per hour? And you go through the first camera at 55 miles per hour, so everything looks good. And then you go up to like 75 or 80 miles per hour. And before you get to the second camera, you dramatically slow down to 35 miles per hour. Is that a loophole, or is that an engineering problem, or am I missing something? Because then overall, you could theoretically game the system and have your overall number be 55 miles an hour, even though at one point you were going 85 miles an hour.
You can answer too.
Or is that me being just kind of?
You can answer too. You can answer.
I would say my answer, even though you're directing, is it's the time elapse.
Right.
So you could slow down in the last 30 seconds to 35 miles per hour, but you've only got that seconds left till you hit that second camera. So it's the time in between.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
you would have to be a math genius to get the math right. But if you were, you could game the system. All right.
I'll double check on that for you, Delegate.
Okay, any additional?
Thank you.
Delegate Lewis.
Mr. Chair, thank you for your indulgence. So now this bill has become a math problem. And I just want to make sure, just level setting. The calculation of an average is the sum of two numbers divided by the number of numbers. So A plus B over A plus B divided by 2. That's an average. It's 2 points divided by 2. So you're taking a measurement at point A, a static measurement of the miles per hour speed. You're taking a second measurement at point B, whatever the distance is. It could be 50 feet, it could be 10 miles.
Yes.
You're taking a static measurement of the speed at point B.
Yes.
You add those 2 points together and you divide it by 2.
Yes.
That's your average speed, and that's what the system would calculate. That would be the basis for measuring your excess speed and whether or not you qualified to get a ticket.
Yes, although this assumes there's only two places of measurement, 2 segments of 2 points of measurement. It is possible in Europe or in other jurisdictions, you could have multiple points of measurement, which would change the average calculation, but
Right, then the
yes.
denominator would be 3 or
Correct,
4 or whatever,
correct,
how many cameras. So that's what we're talking about. So, and the driver has no way of knowing what the distance is between the locations of the 2 cameras. So you can't game a system when you don't know where you're being measured
That is
or monitored.
the thought. And the signage, I believe, is meant to discourage that behavior. It's sort of like, it's very clear, please slow down, please obey the speed limit. This is an automated enforcement zone.
Yeah, this 10-mile segment
Correct,
is automated
correct.
enforcement.
Very
Please don't
dangerous
speed.
segment of road, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have additional in-person testimony from Mindy Baden. Is they here?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask, there was supposed to be a
Yep, we have 2 virtual witnesses.
Okay.
Yep, I was just finishing the in-person first.
Hello, Chair Corman and members of the committee. It's going to be a little difficult to speak after all this debate. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. I'm supporting House Bill 421, which would approve the point-to-point speed monitoring systems on PG County on Route 210. Almost 100 people have died on Maryland 210 since 2007. Just 4 days ago on Sunday, there was a serious crash that involved multiple vehicles. The very next day on Monday, another serious crash that resulted in a child and 2 adults being transported to trauma centers. Greatly excessive speeds have been recorded on 210, and speed is one of the leading causes of traffic fatalities and severe injuries. In the 14 months between July 2024 and September 2025, the speed cameras along Maryland 210 issued 90,000 tickets. That comes out to about 215 tickets a day. The fixed cameras that are currently on Route 210 don't seem to be a deterrent to some of the most reckless drivers. Something drastic needs to be done to stop the excessive speeding on 210. We have the technology to solve this. The 2-point speed monitoring systems, if approved, have the potential to be the drastic thing that we do. Motorists won't be able to slow down for a camera and then speed up past the camera without incurring a penalty. They will be forced to maintain a safe speed throughout the length of the roadway. This will send a signal to motorists that their reckless speeds will not be tolerated. We can put a stop to the road violence on Maryland 210. Please submit a favorable report for House Bill 421. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to our virtual favorable witnesses. We have Ron Weiss, Maryland 210 Traffic Safety Committee. Mr. Weiss, are you with us?
Chair Corman, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
I apologize. I just came back from the dentist, so my voice is not the best. I'm Ron Weiss, a founding member of the 210 Traffic Safety Committee, and I respectfully urge a favorable report on HB 421. This bill is not about saving lives, not collecting fines. Slower traffic means fewer crashes, fewer injuries, and fewer fatalities. It also lowers fuel consumption, vehicle repair costs, medical costs, and insurance costs. The problem is not the ordinary driver. It's the small number of dangerous drivers who game the current camera system by slowing at known camera locations and then speeding back up between them. Those drivers impose the risk on everyone else on 210, innocent motorists, passengers, pedestrians, and first responders who did not choose to be part of that danger. The goal of this bill is simple: change dangerous behavior before more people are hurt or killed. On one of Maryland's most dangerous roads, we need enforcement that reflects how people actually drive over the whole corridor. For these reasons, I respectfully ask for a favorable report on HB 421. Thank you. And if I may add, I disagree with the average of the two speed notion. If I travel 100 miles in 1 hour, my average speed is 100 miles an hour, regardless of what my initial speed is or my ending speed is. That's what we're trying to measure.
Thank you very much. We'll turn to Reverend Dr. Robert Screen, 210 Traffic Safety Committee.
Can everyone hear me?
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you so much. Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Reverend Dr. Robert L. Screen, Sr., founder and facilitator of the Maryland 210 Traffic Safety Committee and board member of Safe Roads Maryland. I submit this document as my official support for legislative bill HB 421 for favorable passage. HB 421 represents the state-of-the-art technology in speed camera advancement that better functions as an operational tool motivating safe driving behavior. Point-to-point speed camera enhancements that negates the gaming practices of nefarious unsafe speed infraction drivers that slow down at the sighted placement of speed cameras and then speed up after vacating the speed camera range. This past summer, a speed camera was moved from a fixed location where it was placed for over a year's time span to a new location 200 yards north of its original location on the same span of roadway. This speed camera, which averaged about 1,400 citations a month, jumped to 5,431 citations the very next month, revealing that drivers were slowing down at the familiar location, speeding up after. Point-to-point computes the average speed over a span of roadway, not just covering a spot location of enforcement. The bottom line objective of speed camera enforcement is to motivate law abidance to speed laws over the entirety of the road span, not just in spots where cameras are located. I seek your support for point-to-point speed camera coverage for any hit highway under legislation HB 421. I believe this innovation enhancement will be the answer for speed cameras for today and future uses to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe that concludes the bill hearing on House Bill 421. Thank you, Chair Valderrama. We will turn to House Bill 1507, a patient Delegate Adams, motor vehicles, enhanced tinted windows, medical exemption. Delegate Adams, I will not forget that you let the chair go first. I hope she won't forget either.
It's David Frazier Hidalgo as well, so can't have him back, okay. Mr. Chair, committee members, for the record, Delegate Chris Adams here to present House Bill 1507 titled Motor Vehicles, Enhanced Tinted Windows, Medical Exemption. If you don't mind, I'll read just a little bit of the fiscal note. The bill authorizes an out-of-state physician licensed to practice medicine to issue a certification for a medical exemption for enhanced tinted motor vehicle windows. By repealing the general 2-year time limit on the validity of these medical exemptions and limiting circumstances under which this exemption can be valid indefinitely, the bill establishes that all medical exemptions for enhanced tinted motor vehicle windows are valid indefinitely. So we have a constituent, Penny Austin Richardson, who brought testimony that compelled Delegate Adams and my co-sponsors and Senator Moutz to bring this bill. And it goes a little bit like this. This is the document that everyone who is seeking a medical exemption for the use of additional tinting on their windows to receive that. And so on this form that's being filled out, it is asking the owner of the vehicle and also the physician to sign off on the form. This form is meant to be kept in the vehicle at all times for the purpose of review by a police officer should there be a stop. And then the law officer asks for more information about the tinting. So what the bill is doing is it's saying two things under this bill, and they're very important from a rural perspective. One, is that if you're a physician that carries the appropriate certifications and license, but you are out of the state of Maryland, that you can still fill this form out. So my constituent has said that they have a Delaware doctor who agreed with and helped fill this form out. My constituent who lives in Montgomery County traveled to Glen Burnie for the purpose of getting the certification completed, and state police said, no, we're sorry, you cannot use an out-of-state physician's certification to do that. And you would imagine then that my constituent who works in Delaware, who lives on the Eastern Shore, who had to drive to Glen Burnie to do this, got just a little bit frustrated with that outcome. And while I'm not going to read the constituent's testimony because it's not included in the bill file that you'll be reviewing, what I will say is this is a scenario where somebody had a severe need for relief, who has a permanent need for the exemption, and that in this bill we are granting two forms of relief, and we would ask for the committee to consider both of those as you review the bill. Last thing I'll say to you on the legislation, you know, I moved forward after 12 years with due consideration for those that oppose the bill. In this instance, this may be the first example that I'm bringing a bill that's opposed by Maryland sheriffs and the Maryland State Police. And in weighing my interest in bringing this bill, I did evaluate the importance of helping those that need this window tinting, giving them the regulatory relief to make these sort of certifications permanent, but also granting them the ability to use their chosen physician who gets these certifications in a national way to give these good folks the ability to do these certifications with the maximum amount of benefit where needed. And I deem that to be as equal in importance as the concern that law enforcement has for protection of their law enforcement officers when they're making stops. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I present the bill and be glad to answer questions.
Thank you very much, and thank you for not including any math problems in your presentation. Any questions from my colleagues? Okay, that concludes the bill hearing on House Bill 1507. Do we have Delegate Young yet? Okay, Delegate Healy, you ready? House Bill 1504, Delegate Healy, highways, sidewalks, and bicycle pathways, construction and reconstruction.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. For the record, I'm Delegate Ann Healy, presenting House Bill 1504, which everyone here, I'm sure, is familiar with because it passed unanimously from this committee and from the House of Delegates and from the State Senate before it was vetoed by the governor. So all this bill does is prioritize funding for the construction or reconstruction of sidewalks and bicycle pathways adjacent to highways that are subject to a complete streets policy or similar Vision Zero program. And I know that State Highway has concerns. I'm working with them on an amendment that should address their concerns. I spoke with a representative of State Highway last evening, and I just spoke with Patrick Tracy about the amendment. All it does is it says, yeah, these are the priorities, but State Highway still has the ability in their discretion to override that. All they have to do is explain why. And if they're willing to do that, then that's all that's necessary. They can spend the money on their priority, but they need to explain why they're overriding what we prefer. So that's the entire change in the bill, and it is probably going to be available for subcommittee next week. Okay. This is my intern. You may remember Amy Yu, who has been working with me. She is a student at the University of Maryland, and I already presented our very short testimony. So, but Amy's been doing some research on it, so she's also here to answer questions.
Terrific. Any questions for Delegate Healy or her intern? Okay, thank you. That concludes the bill here on House Bill 1504. We'll turn to House Bill 1569, Delegate Young, parking enforcement, vehicles in custody or control of auto repair or storage facility. And if you have a panel, please bring them up.
Greetings, colleagues. Delegate Young. I'm going to allow my intern to present this bill, if it's please the chair.
Good afternoon, Chairman Corman and esteemed members of the committee. My name is Cedric Spencer, and I'm intern for Delegate Young. I'm also a resident of the 45th District of Baltimore City. And I'm here today to respectfully urge you to cast a favorable vote for House Bill 1569. I believe it's a crucial piece of consumer protection legislation. The bill addresses a significant and unfair loophole in our current law. As it stands, if a citizen entrusts their vehicle to an auto repair or storage facility and that facility parks their car illegally, it is the registered owner of the vehicle who is responsible for the fines accrued by that vehicle. The owner has no control over where their car is parked when it's outside of their care, and yet they are the one who bears the responsibility. The most egregious and most common occurrence, especially within the 45th District, is that shops will park the vehicles illegally for an extended period of time. This could be days, weeks, or even months. All the while, it is accruing violations. And more often than not, the citizens have no idea that this has happened until their car is being towed away to an impound lot, or they go to re-register their car and they can't because they have a bunch of fines. Now, as a former mechanic myself, it has always been my philosophy that when charged with the stewardship of a customer's vehicle, it is the shop's responsibility to ensure that the work is not only complete, but the vehicle is returned to the customer without consequence. House Bill 1569 provides a clear, fair, and common sense solution to this problem. It rightfully shifts the liability of the parking citations from the vehicle owner to the auto repair facility that had custody and control of the vehicle at the time of the violation. This bill simply aligns responsibility with control. Now, this is not an anti-business measure. It is a pro-consumer measure that establishes a fair standard of accountability. It ensures that the party responsible for the action is also responsible for the consequences. This principle is already recognized in other jurisdictions, and it is time for Maryland to provide the same basic protection to its citizens. By passing House Bill 1569, you will close this loophole and protect countless Marylanders from unfair financial burdens. You will ensure that responsibility is placed where it belongs, and so I strongly urge a favorable report on House Bill 1569. Thank you so much for your time and your consideration.
My name is Hussein Wahid. I'm with Advanced Technology Acceleration Initiative, University of Maryland, College Park. And this problem was just explained so very well. Occurs a lot around university campuses. Usually students and researchers maintain low-cost vehicles. They know and they practice a lot of the best maintenance practices. And when such an incident occurs, the losses are much greater because of what they have put into the vehicle. The value of the vehicle can never be properly assessed because they know the inside functioning of all the systems involved in it, and they have maintained it to a level where it can perform very close to its optimum performance level. And that's what advanced life cycle engineering is all about. And University of Maryland happens to be the #1 ranked university in the country for advanced life cycle engineering. So this issue came up a few times, and I realized that something needs to be done about it because these students, researchers, deliberately maintain these vehicles over a very long period of time, and they so easily can lose it and recover nothing out of it. But also the fact that they are informed after the penalties have reached a certain amount, like $700, $800, and usually it is put off for the time when they'll be able to earn and pay for it. But by the time they do that, it's already thousands of dollars. And so it gets postponed further and further. And in the end,
The biggest loss is, they cannot even contribute in their field because they are not considered in good standing with local laws. So they cannot contribute with respect to standards, and that causes transformative economic efficiency loss. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a question from Delegate Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Delegate Young, for bringing the bill, and your intern did a good job. Well done. I have a question for you, Delegate. Were you able to see the unfavorable testimony from the Self-Storage Association? Are you familiar?
Yes, and I think that they recommend an amendment. I do not oppose it.
Yes, so you're open to their amendment?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I do not see any additional questions, so actually we will turn to the Self-Storage Association. Bruce Bariano.
I love the bill. No, I just got to call my client, the Self-Storage Association, Bruce Bariano. I'm here for that. We found out about this, and the way it reads, it conflicts with the commercial law article, which defines ownership and custody and what have you. And the delegate just indicated he was fine with the amendment, taking out self-storage. So I have nothing further to say. I'm sure you all are sick and tired of hearing from me anyway, But and can I say one thing personally? I no longer am the lobbyist for the Candy and Tobacco Association. So I just, as they say, I'm not happy. As they say in the lobbying world, they went in another direction.
All right. Well, you'll always be our candy man.
I'll get the amendment and work with the sponsor. And thank you very much.
That concludes Bill here on House Bill 1569. We'll turn to House Bill 1491, Delegate Odom. Education, Interjurisdictional Safe Pathways Commission establishment. And if you have a panel or anything, please bring them up, Delegate.
All right. Good afternoon, Chairman Corman and Vice Chair Guyton and the esteemed members of this wonderful committee, the best committee of all. All right. All right. Now I'll get to business. I'm going to read this so I don't leave out a thing. But I'm writing to express a favorable report on House Bill 1491, which establishes the Interjurisdictional Safe Pathways Commission to identify, coordinate, and secure funding for safe pathways for students traveling to and from schools. Across Maryland, many students rely on walking or hiking to school, but lack safe and accessible infrastructure. Gaps in sidewalks, crosswalks, bike lanes, traffic calming measures, and school zone signage create significant safety concerns for students and families. These challenges are particularly acute for students with disabilities and for communities where traffic volumes or roadway design create hazardous pedestrian conditions. HB 1491 creates a collaborative statewide framework to address these challenges. The bill establishes Interjurisdictional Safe Pathways Commission, or a commission, to bring together key stakeholders, including representatives from Maryland State Department of Education, Department of Transportation, and Maryland Department of Health, as well as Maryland Department of Disabilities, in addition to local school systems, parents, students, and infrastructure experts together. Through this coordinated structure, the commission will work to identify gaps in safe routes to school and develop strategies to improve, and will develop strategies to improve student travel safety across jurisdictions. The commission will conduct a statewide inventory of existing safe pathway infrastructure and programs, identify areas where improvements are needed, and evaluate opportunities to leverage federal, state, local, and private funding streams. It will also develop a strategic plan to coordinate investments and recommend policies that maximize available resources while improving safety outcomes for students. These efforts will help ensure that Maryland takes a proactive and coordinated approach to improving safe routes to school. Importantly, HB 1491 is designed to leverage existing resources and maximize funding opportunities. According to the fiscal and policy analysis, the Maryland State Department of Education will provide staff support for the commission, including a contractual coordinator and an initial assessment and inventory safe pathways statewide. This assessment will help inform long-term planning and guide future infrastructure investments to improve student safety. Improving safe routes to school is not simply a transportation issue. It is also a matter of public safety, equity, and public health. Safe pathways encourage walking and biking, support student attendance, and ensure that all students, including those with disabilities, can travel safely to school regardless of where they live. By establishing a coordinated interagency strategy to identify needs, align assessments, and maximize available funding, HB 1491 represents an important step toward ensuring that every student in Maryland has a safe path to school. For these reasons, all that I've explained, I respectfully request a favorable report of House Bill 1491. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Chair Corman, committee members, and Delegate Odom. I am Timothy Meyer, a former 5-term PTO president, longtime safe routes advocate, requesting a favorable report on HB 1491. Each of these are news stories of school-related pedestrian safety incidents across Maryland. Tragic deaths, life-changing injuries, county after county, kindergarten to college. They don't even include all the near misses and close calls that parents know far too well. Our kids can't afford for us to wait until the next tragedy. In November 2023, 2 students were killed walking to a nearby elementary school. Prince George's County Council established a school pedestrian safety work group that brought together county and municipal leaders, school officials, public works and transportation officials, law enforcement, parents, and other key stakeholders. We met for 6 months and created a report of 18 recommendations to improve safety around our schools. Those included short-term and long-term ideas, identified which agencies and stakeholders could take the lead on different ideas, and our recommendations covered education and awareness, legislative fixes, infrastructure investments, and day-to-day school-level actions that could be taken. HB 1491 can build on that type of work, and it will create safer pathways for kids all across the state of Maryland. My home city of Mount Rainier took years of our school's safe routes work and worked together with City Council to turn it into $9.7 million in Safe Streets for All funding. Getting more resources for this issue can be done. I read the fiscal note and want to address that, yes, creating safe routes to school does have a cost, but inaction costs far more. Every child has the right to get to and from school safely, and I urge a favorable report. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. We have a question from Vice Chair Guyton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much, Delegate Odom, for bringing this bill and for working it, and thanks for your comments. I just want to ask you a couple of questions that relate to issues that I'm dealing with in my district right now. Currently, we have a couple of issues. One is that there is a school that needs a crosswalk, but because the county has measured the traffic going across the school in the same way that they measure traffic for other studies on any other road, they've determined that there aren't enough people crossing per hour during the school day, right, to warrant a crosswalk at that school. Would this bill address that by saying, you know, in a school district around the school, you would need to have different criteria for what a traffic study might need to show in order to provide safe walkways?
Well, hearing what you stated, in my opinion, it certainly would. And I think that by having a commission, which is what we attempted to establish, and looking at the example that was cited to us about after the fact, and looking at the results from the injury and accident, hopefully we'll get a proactive involvement so that we can address that issue prior to an incident and maybe see where it could be used across the spectrum with other jurisdictions, with other such crosswalks.
Thank you so much. I can see a great need for this. And you also, I love the fact that you really focused on kids who have IEPs and kids who have disabilities. I also have a situation where I have a mother who is visually impaired, too close to the school to have a bus for her young child, but she wants to be able to walk her 6-year-old to school, but doesn't have a safe pathway to do so. Would this bill possibly solve problems like that as well?
Again, with my intention is that it certainly would.
Thank you so much for bringing it.
Delegate Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Delegate Odom, for this thoughtful bill, and thanks to your panelists. I'm curious whether the existing state Complete Streets program might have funding that could be available for the commission you envision. Had you looked into that?
I had not specifically looked into that, but I'm certain that there would be some other areas as well where we have funding that may lend itself to contribute as part of this collaborative effort.
Great.
So I'm amenable to that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I do not see any additional questions. That concludes the bill hearing on House Bill 1491. We'll turn to House Bill 1522, Delegate Odom, traffic control signal monitoring and speed monitoring systems, exemptions from liability, vehicle rental companies. Any of the panel, please bring them up.
Again, thank you, Chair and Vice Chair and members of the committee, and I will read to you once again. All right. This is the testimony I have now is for, of course, House Bill 1522. This legislation addresses the longstanding gap in Maryland's automated traffic enforcement laws by repealing the statutory exemption that currently shields rental and leasing companies from liability for violations captured by red light cameras and speed monitoring cameras. Under current Maryland law, rental and leasing companies are excluded from the statutory definition of owner for purposes of automated enforcement programs. As a result, when the vehicle involved in a violation is a rental vehicle, the citation often cannot be effectively enforced. And I'm going to take out the word often. I don't think it can be enforced at all presently. So I want to emphasize that. HB 1522 simply removes the exemption and treats rental and lease vehicles the same as all other vehicles when violations are captured by red lights or speed cameras. The bill does not expand automated enforcement. It doesn't change speed thresholds or increases penalties. It simply ensures that existing traffic safety laws apply consistently regardless of vehicle ownership. Closing the loop is important for public safety. Data provided by the Charles County Sheriff's Office illustrates the scope of the issue. In Charles County alone, automated enforcement systems recorded over 1,200 violations committed by rental vehicles in 2025. Violations included drivers traveling well above the posted speed limit in school zones, including instances of vehicles traveling 70 miles per hour or more, with one driver recorded at 99 miles per hour in a 45 mile per hour zone. These incidents highlight the safety risks that arise when drivers believe violations cannot be enforced. Automated enforcement programs are intended to deter dangerous behavior and protect Marylanders, particularly to sensitive locations such as school zones, high-risk intersections. When a category of vehicles is effectively exempted from enforcement, it weakens deterrence and undermines the credibility of these programs. So I have with me today safety experts and members of our esteemed law enforcement in Charles County to testify favorably as well.
Good afternoon, distinguished members of this committee. I'm Sheriff Troy Berry with the Charles County Sheriff's Office, and I appreciate this opportunity to provide favorable testimony in regards to HB 1522. As Sheriff, my priority is the safety and trust of the residents we serve. HB 1522 strengthens public safety by closing a loophole that currently exempts rental vehicles from citations issued by red light cameras and speed cameras. This legislation ensures that all drivers are held to the same standard and enhances accountability across the roadways. In closing, this legislation is a practical step towards fairness and responsibility, and public safety supporting the law enforcement's mission to keep Maryland roadways safe. I respectfully request a favorable report on HB 1522. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jerome Spencer. I'm the General Counsel for the Charles County Sheriff's Office here in support of House Bill 1522. The Charles County Sheriff's Office is responsible for 3 automated enforcement programs: red light cameras, school zone speed cameras, and school bus arm cameras. When a violation is captured by a camera, we send a citation to the vehicle's owner. When it comes to a vehicle that is driven past a stopped school bus, owner means the registered owner. However, for 2 of our 3 programs, owner does not include a motor vehicle rental or leasing company. Removing the rent car exemption from red lights and speed cameras is not revolutionary. Maryland law allows citations to be issued to a rent-a-car company when their vehicle goes past a stopped school bus. It allows citations to be issued when a rent-a-car company goes through a bus lane monitoring system. And it allows every jurisdiction except for Baltimore County to issue a citation to a rent-a-car company that when their car goes through a vehicle height monitoring system. And most significantly, Maryland law allows a toll bill to be sent to a rent-a-car company. Now, rent-a-car companies have figured out how to pass these costs on to their renters. In fact, on their website, NextCar explicitly warns that tolls are the renter's responsibility. We will bill you for the cost of any tolls incurred while renting a vehicle plus administrative fee. Enterprise is a toll pass program in which they charge renters a credit card plus a service charge for tolls. And Hertz explicitly warns that a renter is responsible for any parking tickets, traffic violations, and tolls incurred during the rental period. Now, last week in the cross-file bill, the Senate Judicial Proceedings Committee heard testimony that renters are charged deposit when they rent a car. That deposit can, and it seems is, used to cover violations, and that at least one company assesses an $80 administrative fee. Taking that at face value, that means 2 things. First, rent-a-car companies will not suffer significantly if this loophole is closed. And second, with this bill, car renters who jeopardize the safety of the people of Maryland will no longer benefit from the loophole, but will be held accountable by both the government and by the rent-a-car company. I want to thank Delegate Odom for his leadership in sponsoring this bill, and we ask for a favorable report in House Bill 1522.
Good afternoon. I'm Captain Carlson with the Charles County Sheriff's Office. In 2025, the Sheriff's Office had to void 1,309 red light citations and 1,209 speed camera citations due to vehicles being rental cars. The amount of speed camera violations in 2025 was actually probably a little bit higher. We had a vendor issue and our enforcement numbers were down about 30%. We estimate that 2025 is probably closer to 2024's total of 2,130 speed camera violations. In 2025, we voided 81 rental vehicle citations for going 70 miles over in school zones within Charles County. The highest speed was 99 miles an hour in a 45-mile-an-hour zone. Again, due to the vendor issues, we believe that it's probably more than 81 vehicles, closer to 142 based on our 2024 numbers. As the law is written now, you can drive a rental vehicle. If you drive a rental vehicle, you can speed through red lights in school zones with impunity unless a police officer is sitting there. There's no accountability for your actions. As seen by the recorded speeds, some of those actions are extremely reckless. When we began researching this, I spoke with representatives from EAN Holdings, which is the largest car rental provider operating Enterprise Rent-A-Car, National Car Rental, and Alamo Rent-A-Car. When Maryland law was explained to them, they were surprised. They advised that they believed all states with photo enforcement programs were issuing citations to rental companies. They advised the industry had a process in place where they can either return the driver's information to the issuing agency per the instructions on the citation, or they could pay it and pass it on to the renter along with an administrative fee to cover it. They further advised that it's specifically noted in their contracts that the renter will be responsible for the fees and tolls incurred during their rental. And I can testify to that. My wife travels for her living, and she uses rental cars everywhere, and when she speeds, we get the tickets on her credit card along with the administrative fees. Thank you for your time.
I apologize, I wasn't in the room. Did everybody get a chance to speak? Yes, sir. Terrific. We have a question from Delegate Foley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is for Delegate Odoms. Thank you for this bill. My question is, several of representatives from rental cars or rental car associations have submitted oral testimony favorable with amendment, and the amendment is to add the 45-day, like there's a notice and then they get a 45-day period to, to take care of the fine. And that allows them to notify their customers. And according to some of the testimony in here, and I haven't checked it to make sure it's true, but according to the testimony in here, it says that, other older technology, enforcement technology like speed cameras, that's allowed in Maryland law. So would you be open to an amendment like that, Delegate, to conform this to the other enforcement statutes that have that don't include a waiver for rental car companies?
If I'm reading your question correctly, then, I certainly wouldn't be opposed to that amendment.
Okay,
and I
great.
think in reading some of the unfavorable testimony that I've read in some of the notes, it seemed, and we've reached out to some of those companies to explain that this, and I'm sitting by law enforcement, so I think they can assure that I'm saying correctly, but this is not in any means trying to penalize the rental companies. We want to actually get the individual who violated the law. And so if there's any areas that need to be considered to make certain that that doesn't happen, I think that everyone here would be agreeable to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we do have additional witnesses on the bill. We have Michael DiLorenzo, favorable amendment, next car all vehicle rentals. And just for convenience, let's also bring up John Dill, who is unfavorable, NPR auto rate.
I am. I'm favorable with amendments. The amendments she was just talking about. Good afternoon, Chair Corman and members of the committee. My name is Michael DiLorenzo. I operate Next Car Rental, which is a local Maryland-based car rental business headquartered in Laurel, Maryland. We have 16 stores, 110 employees throughout the state, and I do support House Bill 1522, but with some important amendments. Automated traffic enforcement is the future. You guys have been sitting here all day listening to automated. That's the way traffic is going to be enforced. It will be increasingly used as the primary tool in public policy to influence driver behavior and improve roadway safety. However, HB 1522 alone doesn't go far enough to influence driver behavior who violate our traffic laws. A car rental company has no authority to influence driver behavior. A rental car company cannot suspend a driver's license, suspend a vehicle registration, or impound a personal car to enforce traffic regulations. Those are the enforcement tools used by law enforcement and the court system to influence the most difficult drivers. The only way those tools can be used is if the driver is identified. Historically, car rental companies were exempted from automated enforcement because the state was not prepared to manage receiving renter and driver information from the car rental industry when a violation occurred. That limitation no longer exists. The amendment proposed in my written testimony provides a practical solution. It applies the same 45-day pre-citation transfer notice procedure used in Maryland's school bus lane, and stop sign camera statutes allowing a rental company to identify a renter driver before a citation is issued. The amendment also modernizes the process by allowing secure electronic transmission of renter driver information through a portal or data interface. This allows the agencies and their technology vendors to receive renter driver information quickly and efficiently. It's time to implement new technology.
Thank you for your-
I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Please go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, Chair Corman, Vice Chair Guyton, members of the committee. First, let me start, as Mike just said, we absolutely need traffic enforcement camera systems, and we need more of them. Cameras help change driver behavior, making our roads safer for everyone. Technology like this, when used properly, protects both motorists and pedestrians. For that reason, NextCar fully supports these systems. My name is John Dill. I've been renting cars since 1997 in PG County. In fact, I started washing cars and they haven't kicked me out yet. HB 1522 proposes repealing the exemption that protects car rental companies from liability for automated citation. I believe this proposal misunderstands why that exemption exists in the first place. There is no gap, there is no loophole. Rental car companies were exempted because holding them responsible places responsibility on the wrong party. A rental company owns the vehicle, but it does not control the person driving it, and we certainly don't have the authority to dictate how a renter behaves. So the question becomes, what is the real purpose of this enforcement system? Is it simply to collect fines, or is it to change driver behavior and improve safety? If the goal were simply to collect more fines, you can add more cameras, increase fees, and boot cars that don't pay. But would that really affect the safety of our roads and our motorists and our pedestrians? If the real goal is to change driver behavior, then the solution is simple. Allow rental companies a reasonable amount of time, 45 days as in another bill, other legislation, to identify the actual driver and transfer the citation to the person who committed the violation. My rental car does not run red lights, the driver does. My rental car does not speed, the driver does. If we want safer roads, accountability must follow the driver behind the wheel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do not see any questions. Okay, that concludes the bill hearing on House Bill 1522. We'll turn to House Bill 1567, Delegate Odom, Pass Pedestrian Safely Act.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I am here to provide testimony in regards to House Bill 1567, and that is Pass Pedestrian Safely Act. As Marylanders continue to expand, as Maryland continues to expand multimodal transportation options, it is increasingly important that our laws clearly define safe behavior for all users of shared roads. HB 1567 prioritizes pedestrian safety by requiring riders of bicycles, motor scooters, and electric personal assistive mobility devices, known as EPAMDs, to maintain, when practicable, a clear 3-foot safe passing distance when overtaking pedestrians or vehicles. Clear expectation like this helps prevent collisions and encourage safer interactions between pedestrians and riders on sidewalks, trails, shared use paths, and other scenarios where applicable. As e-bikes are classified as bicycles under Maryland law, regulations under this bill do apply to riders of e-bikes. Under current state law, micro-mobility users are not required to provide an audible warning when passing pedestrians. HB 1567 fills this gap where riders will be required to provide an audible signal, whether the signal is by voice, bell, or another audible device. This step ensures that pedestrians are aware of approaching riders and have the opportunity to react appropriately. Many responsible riders already practice this courtesy, and this bill helps standardize that behavior statewide. Importantly, the legislation also clarifies equipment standards for EPA MDs, allowing them to be equipped with bells, horns, or other audible signaling devices while prohibiting sirens or whistles. This ensures that riders have the tools necessary to safely alert pedestrians. This bill further strikes an appropriate balance in enforcement by establishing violations as a secondary offense with the modest $25 civil penalty, reinforcing safety expectations while avoiding overly punitive enforcement. To clarify, police may not pull a rider over for a violation pertaining to this bill. A fine would only apply after a rider has already been pulled over for some other illegal actions. The bill is simple. It highlights that pedestrian protection matters.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the committee? Okay, we will bring up our unfavorable testimony. John Corn, Bike Maryland Coalition.
Mr. Chair, can I just make another comment? Okay, we have spoken previous to our hearing, and some of the considerations you have are totally understood, and we are amenable to considering amendments. But we haven't had that discussion, but I just want to share that with you right now.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Delegate. John Corrin, Bicycle Advocates for Annapolis and Anne Arundel County, today representing a coalition of safety advocates from across the state. Those of you who have been on this committee for a while know that I've advocated for all vulnerable road users, including passage of the Vulnerable Road User Bill in 2021. So we speak for pedestrians, cyclists, everyone traveling outside of a car. We're acutely aware of the concern that pedestrians have, and that concern has been elevated lately by the existence of what's called e-motos. These are devices that look like electric bikes, that are deceptively marketed as electric bicycles, but in fact exceed the power and speed limitations of electric bicycles. They require license, registration, and insurance, and yet 13-year-olds are flying around the roads, trails, and sidewalks on these devices. Ironically, the bill does not address e-motos, which I think is the biggest safety factor for pedestrians. So that's one key issue we have. Cyclists are already required by statute in several places, and you'll find it in the written testimony, to avoid collisions with pedestrians. We're held to the same duty of care that drivers are held to avoid colliding with pedestrians, and we do it on sidewalks. Jay's law that was passed last year, we put in the yield to pedestrians provision there because of this concern. The 3-foot requirement is the biggest issue. There are no states that we know of in the nation that have a designated passing distance. It's very context dependent. We've got to worry about cars, parked cars, other cyclists, debris, glass, and in almost all contexts, and you'll find pictures, there's simply physically no room to provide 3 feet. We're okay with the audible signal. We would love to work with the delegate off session and develop a bill that really takes on the problem that's been identified.
All right now. So if the bill was amended to just have the audible signal piece, that wouldn't be objectionable to you?
We're okay with the audible signal. We advocate for that, and almost all trails and sidewalks, where that matters, already have that rule in place. So yes, we advocate for that.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, well, thank you. That concludes the bill hearing on HB 1567. We'll turn to HB 938, Delegate Baylor, Anne Arundel County, and the City of Annapolis, Crosswalk Monitoring Systems Authorization.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Delegate Dylan Baylor from District 30A testifying in support of House Bill 938. This bill is very similar to the bill that you heard from Delegate Martinez earlier today, and I think a bill that you'll hear right after this. Not to reiterate a lot of the points, but I think in Anne Arundel and the city of Annapolis, we're also seeing a tremendous amount of incidents between drivers and pedestrians or bicyclists, specifically in crosswalks. I can think of an incident that happened right up the street from here this past summer where there was a person in the crosswalk. It's a huge, there's a big light and stuff. I can't think of the right words to use. It's been a long week, but it's a really built up crosswalk, and even that did not stop the incident from occurring. So I think from those conversations, I know MDOT is doing a lot of work specifically on infrastructure in my district and in all of our districts to ensure pedestrian safety. But I think this bill can be an additional tool in that arsenal to help ensure that non-drivers on our roadways are protected and safe. The only difference that this bill is, from my understanding from Delegate Martinez's testimony on the Prince George's County bill, is that Prince George's County bill is directly related to school zones. This bill is a broad level authorization because, for instance, that specific example that I was talking about this past interim did not happen in a school zone. So we want to make sure that people are protected across the board. I've been really honored at the conversations and really excited at the conversations with Abio to know what the technology looks like, and I think it could be a really cool thing for our state. I will also say I'm excited about the reporting language in the bill that requires, if the city of Annapolis and Anne Arundel County use this, they have to come back and report on how it's going. I will also say that this bill passed out of the county delegation 13-2 with a bipartisan vote. And on top of that, there were 3 amendments that the delegation adopted, one on data privacy, one on ensuring that the funds that are the funds that are collected because of this go back into ensuring there's infrastructure improvements where the incident occurred, and 3, ensuring that if the signage is going to be put on a state highway, then that there has to be a permission granted by the State Highway Administration. So with that, I think it could be a really great bill to help protect our pedestrians and bicyclists and other folks. And with that, I would respectfully request a favorable report. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Again, my name is Wade Borman, and I'm here with Avio and representing the Avio team. I'll save you the repetitive nature of this testimony as you heard me last time, but I will give you some data. In Anne Arundel County, drivers failed to yield to pedestrians nearly 8 out of 10 times in our pilot here in Anne Arundel. In some places were particularly egregious at the crosswalks at West Street and Parole Street, and West Street across from Michael Bush Library. Drivers failed to yield 93% of the time. And I'll just say, to get into this building this morning, even though there was a big crowd and police and everything else, right outside, 5 cars didn't let me pass and go through the crosswalk as I stood in it. And I ended up having to just walk out in front of the 6th one, hoping it would stop so I could get over here and be here today. So I'll end my time there. However, obviously favorably, or urge favorable report on this one.
Go ahead. John Sang back again. Safe Roads, Maryland. We respectfully request your favorable report of HB 938 to give Anne Arundel County and the city of Annapolis the option, if they choose to through local law, to use crosswalk monitoring system as described by the Abio representative to enforce one of the most basic rules of the road. Drivers must stop for people in crosswalks. And unfortunately, drivers in Maryland seem to have some type of blindness when it comes to these crosswalks and people entering the crosswalks. And rather than trying to cure human beings behind the wheel of a car, we need automated enforcement. It seems to be a trend throughout the state, and we're hopeful that this, the trend with automated enforcement results in lowering our fatality level in Maryland from where it stands in the upper 400s down to 0. That's our goal. HB 938 offers measured and responsible tool. The penalty is modest. I think it's too modest, $40. If you pollute, wastefully in Maryland, Montgomery County, Prince George's County, Anne Arundel, the fines upward of $1,000 to $1,500. So illegal dumping, we value at $1,500, but someone illegally driving through a crosswalk, it's a $40 fine. So that's a matter for another time. But at least for today, we heartily endorse this bill and would appreciate your favorable report on HB 938. Thank you.
John Corrin, again, Bicycle Advocates for Annapolis and Anne Arundel County, this time keeping it local. We support the bill. Crosswalks are among the most treacherous place that people on foot, people with assistive devices, people on bikes have to traverse. It's impractical to try to do enforcement with police officers, and we're grateful that technology like this exists to modify driver behavior and make it safe for people to safely get from home to wherever they're trying to go on foot, bike, or assistive device. Please support the bill. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, could I add two quick things? So the judiciary sent a letter, Delegate Martinez mentioned this in his testimony. I think the Montgomery County bill also received the same letter. They were referencing the need for modernization upgrades because of the way that the bill is written. My understanding, but I'm happy to work this out with the other similar bills, my understanding is that these are going to be collected at the local level, so we'll definitely dive into that to make sure that there's no fiscal impact on the state. Secondly, I would just be remiss, I spoke at a town hall with our mayor like 3 weeks ago. This bill got the biggest applause I've ever heard on a bill at a town hall, so people want it, and I would once again respectfully request a favorable report.
That's because you didn't mention the dedicated funding for Metro bill, right?
Yes. Yes.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. We will turn, that concludes HB 938. We'll turn to House Bill 1086. Delegate Foley on behalf of the Montgomery County delegation, Crosswalk Monitoring Systems Authorization.
Okay, so this is another one. Good afternoon, Chair Corman, Vice Chair Guyton, and members of the great Environment and Transportation Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to present HB 1086 on behalf of the Montgomery County delegation. I'm Delegate Linda Foley from District 15 in Montgomery County. You've heard all of the reasons why these crosswalk bills, automated enforcement for crosswalk bills are important, and you just heard testimony about how popular they are. I would like to echo that with respect to Montgomery County. This bill, whenever I talk about it, gets a lot of applause and a lot of expressions of support from constituents. This bill passed the Montgomery County delegation unanimously. The Montgomery bill is very similar to the other bills. It's a little bit different because we are Montgomery County. It does include provisions for municipalities to also participate in this program in Montgomery County. But it specifies that it's a pilot program and that it limits the deployment to 30 crosswalks throughout the county. And if this bill were to pass, maybe we can come back and expand that in future years. It also requires that any fines collected will go to improvements at those crosswalks, similar to what is in the Anne Arundel County bill. There are the amendments about signage, getting the approval of the state if it's on a state road. There was another amendment, a couple of the other amendments that are in the other bills. I guess the big thing is the limiting it to 30 locations. I just want to echo what Delegate Dillon said on the previous bill, that the letter from the judiciary that you all received, I believe, seems to raise this issue. This is something that they've raised in the past. We can certainly clarify the bill to make sure that it's clear that the fines are collected locally. Clearly, I think clearly in the bill they are. This has been a concern that the judiciary has raised in the past on some of these other bills, and we've been able to take care of it. So It has to do with the circuit court versus the district court collecting the fines. And one other thing I wanted to say is there was an amendment to this bill in delegation to also increase the fines in Montgomery County under this bill. So I'll be happy to take any questions. Well, I guess, there's a panel, I think, or is there? It's the same people.
Delegate Dillon.
I've just been trying to make Delegate Dillon stick for about 2 years now, so I appreciate the efforts on that.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, I like it.
I'm pretty sure you haven't been a delegate
We used
for
to
2
say
years,
that.
Delegate
We used to
Baylor.
say that about Delegate Stewart. Yeah, sorry. Delegate Baylor, I meant. Delegate Dylan Baylor.
Why don't we bring up Wade Borman of Avio, John Sang, Maryland Coalition for Roadway Safety, Wade Holland, Montgomery County Government, and Mindy Baden.
Go ahead. You go. I'll go first. Yeah.
Hello again, Chair Corman, Vice Chair Guyton, and members of the committee. I want to express my strong support for Bill 1086, which would approve cameras to be placed at crosswalks in Montgomery County. My son Brett died 6 years ago as he was crossing the street, so this bill feels very personal to me. Too many of us in Montgomery County and around the state of Maryland know the pain of losing a loved one suddenly and violently on our roadways. One of the most dangerous driving behaviors is entering a crosswalk when there are pedestrians present. I can't tell you the number of times I've witnessed this. I'm sure we all have. Vehicles sometimes come within inches of the pedestrians. I clearly remember seeing this behavior just less than a week after my son Brett died. A woman was crossing the street with her 2 dogs. She was in a crosswalk. She had the walk signal. She was doing everything right. She was almost hit by a driver in a red car, someone who couldn't be bothered to wait for her to make it across the street. This pedestrian was one of the lucky ones. Many times the outcome is much different. I attended the Montgomery County bill hearing that was held in December. Delegate Foley introduced this bill, and she went on to explain that during a 2-hour observation period of some crosswalks in Montgomery County, they counted 376 pedestrians in the crosswalks, and they counted 615 vehicles that entered the crosswalk and not yielding to the pedestrians. And as we just heard, Wade Borman testified that a very high percentage of motorists do this. I'm appalled, and we should all be appalled at this selfish, dangerous, and reckless behavior. We need to send a message to these drivers that are endangering the lives of our most vulnerable road users. I'm requesting a favorable report on Bill 1086. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, good afternoon, Chair Corman and members of the Environment and Transportation Committee. My name is Wade Holland. I'm the Vision Zero Coordinator for the Montgomery County Government. Today, I'm requesting a favorable with amendments report on behalf of the Montgomery County for House Bill 1086. The number I want to stick with you is 286. That is the number of people who've been struck in a marked crosswalk just in Montgomery County in 2025 alone. Of those 286 people that were struck in a crosswalk, 5 died of their injuries and 24 were seriously injured. As a Vision Zero county and state, it is incumbent on all of us to ensure that we are doing everything in our power to reach our shared goal. Across the county, municipal, county, and state governments have collectively invested millions of dollars installing new traffic signals and beacons, upgrading crosswalk markings to improve visibility, and other interventions to make our intersections safer by design. But even with those investments, too many drivers risk the lives of people trying to cross the street, and crosswalk monitoring systems are an additional tool to help us curb dangerous driving and make our roads safer for everyone using them. The bill as introduced would allow municipalities and the county government to perform the pilot in designated school zones. The county supports the Montgomery County delegation's amendments to change the location requirement from school zones to up to 30 sites identified by the county through evidence-based criteria. The amendments also specify how unallocated fine revenue must be spent and increases the penalty from $40 to $65.
The county would also support including any clarifying amendments necessary to ensure that municipalities may actively participate in the pilot program. Thank you.
And once again, my name is Wade Borman, here with Avio Inc. I'll share the pilot data we have for Montgomery County. We do pilots across the country, and this really is just a nationwide problem. Montgomery County locations recorded an estimated 3,245 failure to yield violations per day. That's 3,245 per day, with an overall failure rate of 90.41%, and more than 9 out of every 10 observed opportunities drivers for failure to yield. And I'll give back my time because I think that says enough. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Again, John Sang with Safe Roads, Maryland. I won't add or repeat really anything that folks have said already this morning or this afternoon, other than to thank Delegate Foley for introducing this bill. Maryland, and with the wisdom of the House Environment and Transportation Committee here, has the opportunity to pull the hat trick with Prince George's, Montgomery counties, and Anne Arundel, Annapolis, moving forward on crosswalk legislation. We would favor the amendment to raise the rate, raise the fine from $40. It's too low. I bought lunch today up the road. It was like $13, $14 for lunch. So we have to value human life, safety, and tragedy at greater than $40. So we respectfully request your favorable report on HB 1086. Thank you, Delegate Foley.
We also have a virtual witness, Melissa Boland, Maryland Association of School Health Nurses. Please go ahead.
Hi, are you able to hear me?
I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Melissa Boland. I'm taking a late lunch here as a school nurse in Montgomery County to speak on behalf of the Maryland Association of School Health Nurses. I urge support of House Bill 1086, which seeks to improve the safety of student walkers by allowing establishment of a crosswalk monitoring system within Montgomery County school zones. As a school nurse, my main priority is to promote the health, safety, and well-being of all students. The safe arrival to and from school by student walkers is a basic need for students and families and must be a priority for schools and communities. Students utilizing crosswalks should be able to rely on drivers to follow already established crosswalk traffic laws. However, and unfortunately, many drivers fail to yield to pedestrians in crosswalks, creating a high risk of deadly and preventable injuries to student walkers. As communities grow, traffic increases, and drivers increasingly fail to follow traffic laws, pedestrian safety appears to be worsening. All students, and especially those in high walker areas such as Title I schools, should be able to safely traverse crosswalks. The program promoted in this bill will effectively monitor failures of drivers to yield to pedestrians and help modify driver behavior with the anticipated outcome of improved student safety. I strongly urge a favorable vote on Bill 1086 to protect our student walkers, our children, as they commute to and from school. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question from Delegate Lewis.
Thank you so much for bringing this bill, Delegate, and thank you to your panelists. My question is for Opvio, the survey group. I'm curious if your data includes racial and ethnic information. One of the challenges we have in Maryland, okay, shake your head no for the record. The gentleman said no, correct?
Yes, no,
Yes.
no, it doesn't.
Thank you for that. The reason I ask is because an issue we have in Maryland, like only a handful of other states, maybe 10 or 11 states in the country, we fail to measure race and ethnicity in non-fatal vehicular crashes. It's a matter I've been very interested in for many years. As we look at Vision Zero, we should be thinking about disparate impact of traffic violence, so I wondered if you had insight on that. But in any case, do you think, so I do have a question, do you think, sir, it would be helpful to have racial and ethnic data in non-fatal crashes, near-miss crash data?
Sure.
If
Or
I could,
anyone. It's of
yeah,
course
if I could, Delegate,
Yes.
And I'll let Abio answer, but I think, I do want to make an important point here, which is, yes, I think that's important, but I think we have to be really careful with this technology in the sense that you have to detect if there is like with all automated enforcement, or most of it, well, all automated enforcement we have now, there's like, you don't know who the driver is. It's only the license plate of the car or the vehicle. But this technology also detects someone in the crosswalk. So the vendors have gone to great lengths to make sure that that image is completely pixelated so that you can't tell anything about the person in the crosswalk. So I think we want to be careful about trying to put too much emphasis on that, because we do want to keep that person anonymous. I do think that we could probably look at different areas and look at, what is the composition of the population in that area, perhaps. But I did want to put that out there because I think with this technology, we want to be very careful about that.
I'm glad you raised that point.
Go ahead.
Did you have a follow-up?
Sure, I would echo those concerns and the importance of privacy. We always put privacy first, so it's never something that we look for when we're doing our pilots. We actually, like the delegate said, we blur everything. We make sure that you can't tell the race or male or female or anything like that. Now, it is something that could be very important, so not to say it's impossible, but that is something at this time that we don't do.
And we wouldn't want technology to do that.
Exactly.
I do appreciate that. I would just like to say for the record, it's pretty well established in the literature that failure to yield happens more frequently when the pedestrian is black or brown, and that's well established nationwide in the literature. We just don't have that data for Maryland. But I'd also like to say, thank you, Delegate. This isn't the bill where we would want to explore that, but it is an issue, a disparate impact. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I do not see any additional questions. That concludes the bill hearing on House Bill 1086 and all the bill hearings for today. So folks, let me tell you where we're at. As you know, your colleagues on the Energy Subcommittee met 2 long meetings on Tuesday and Wednesday. They adopted a number of amendments that have been consolidated into one amendment that is either in your inboxes now or will be shortly. You can basically read that like the bill. It covers all the information that was in the bill originally that still remains, as well as the additional amendments that the subcommittee worked on and adopted. And so I want to give you a lot of time with that. So we're going to come back for voting at 6 p.m. So it's a few hours. Some subcommittees are going to try to meet in there, but hopefully they'll still give you some time to look through the bill. And then we can have a rigorous discussion starting at 6 p.m. Subcommittee announcements, Delegate Lewis, Chair Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Motor Vehicle and Transportation Subcommittee will meet in 10 minutes. That's, let's say, 3:20 p.m. virtually. So the motor vehicles meet at 3:20 p.m. virtually. Thank you.
Chair Foley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Non-Energy Utilities Subcommittee will meet after motor vehicles, and let's say we'll meet at 4:20.
Great.
Virtually.
All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it.